policy resolution that was executed on May 25th of 2010. Don't know if that's going to replace. But it talks about whereas the amenities provided and maintained by the Assessment Patriot Celebration Residential Home Association, including not limited to pools, parks, playgrounds, etc., are for the use and enjoyment of said residents only. Now, we've been complaining about non-residents using this, but nothing has been done. I've talked about having the picnic area gated off. We have to have a CROA key to get in. Nothing's been done. No one calls, no one does anything. Okay? According to this resolution, anyone that's going to bring a guest has to go down to the town hall or wherever that may be, and it's supposed to register the guests. And the guests are supposed to get a photo ID. There's supposed to be a $10 deposit for each guest. That has not been done. Now, almost every week, especially during the summertime, on the weekends, especially in the evenings after 6 o'clock, I'll call the monitor, the celebration monitor cell, and I get a recording. I never get a call back, like complain about there's a party. It's loud. There's people in the pool. No one shows up. Very rarely show up. I wait and I'll call 2 or 3, 4 times. I don't get a response. I complain. Usually the next Monday, Mandy has got many conversations with me regarding this. Nothing gets done. The pool monitors still, or the monitors still don't come out when they're called. When is something going to get done?
It's on the agenda tonight.
Okay.
Thank
you very much.
Mr. Jackson, sir.
Hey, real quick. I know you're probably grouped the first several items, so I just wanted to comment that I sent them out to Lauren and Jen and Jim on item E, which is transfer of the reserve funds for the water tower repair. I asked whether we knew the price for that or not, the cost. That's the budget amount, and we do. It's $80,300. So I would recommend to change that to just transfer $80,300, the actual cost. Because that's how we do a reserve fund item. We take the actual cost of it. So we should transfer the whole amount because they'll end up with an extra $9,300. That's not a good way to treat the reserve fund, just from a audit process and everything. You don't want to take money out that's not allocated to the item with spent that money. Okay, George, you'll take a question.
No, you and I have discussed this, so I'm just listening to the new information.
Thank you very much. Moving on to action items. First one A. Motion to approve net repairs by Gem for $8,035 from the operating fund. Motion. Second. Marco. Any discussion of that? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Nobody. B, motion to approve the purchase of 60 bollard lights.
I'll motion to approve it for $60,000 to allow for money for freight and
Up to 60,000.
up to 60 freight.
Up to 60.
Not to exceed 60.
All right.
I'll second.
All right. Any other discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Long Meadow Playground concrete removal backfill by ACCG. Holy cow, that's some expensive dirt. $13,440. That's to fill the hole so nobody falls in. And we can build on top of it. Motion?
I'll make the motion.
Second?
I'll second it.
Any discussion?
I think Jacob already kind of went over this with us. Okay.
Okay, all those in favor?
I
Opposed? Motion to approve landscape improvements for Island Village townhomes by Exquisite for $57.88 from the service area reserve. Motion. Second. All discussion.
Is the Island Village Town Home Committee, this says they're recommended by the committee, but they're aware of the vendor that's completing the work.
Yes.
Are aware. There is one note on this that with the water pressure issues we're seeing out in Island Village that are only related to Island Village, we may see delays on some of this installation, but we're working closely with the vendor.
Yeah, that's right.
As I know, I was just on the walk today, because I'm on the service area, and that is definitely the plan to have the irrigation repaired first.
Awesome.
Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion to approve transfer. This is what we were just talking about. Motion to approve the transfer of water tower designated reserve funding from reserve to CJC, from CROA reserve to CJC. 55 and water tower repairs 35. And do I have a motion as it stands?
On motion.
A second? All right. Changes discussion.
I understand what Mike just said, and I appreciate that. There is, because of the way the money was transferred, so there's a couple of things here, and I don't know, Mike, if you want to come back up and speak on this. There's $0 in CJC. Like, we are at a deficit in CJC because the reserves is funded somewhere else. So having an extra few $1,000s in CJC as a committee isn't the worst idea.
And I think the plan too is that if you watch your budgets, we're gonna move this anyway.
Yes, so
Right.
this money rightfully belongs in the CJC reserve fund, but it's been captured in the CROA reserve fund for many years based on for whatever. And so it's been being collected in the CROA reserve fund rather than CJC.
And we have other expenses like signage for the water tower that right now there's $0 to pay for that. Not because there's not money for it, it's because it just went to the wrong place. So I do understand what you're saying. Why do you recommend that we don't do that? What's the bad practice in that?
You're taking money out of the reserve fund for an item, and you're taking more than what it actually costs. So those are restricted funds that go in. When we have an item that comes in under cost, that we have reserved for it, and we've allocated toward the reserve fund, then that gets reallocated to other items within the fund. We don't just send that into operating funds or capital funds or anyplace else.
Yeah.
So if you want to do that,
Would we amend the motion to say move CROA reserve to CJC reserve? Because CJC reserve, it needs to be funded?
That's
it's coming out of our reserve fund. Yeah, it's reserve fund.
It's from reserve to reserve.
Yeah,
that's
so it's still the same.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is it would, are you talking about the specificity of the motion?
Yeah, because we know it costs $80,300.
Yeah.
We know that. We already have the cost. If we didn't know the cost, then it probably wouldn't be a problem because it's still an allocated item that we're waiting for it to come in. We're probably filling the debt horse here. Let me suggest this, do the $80,300. If you want to give CJC another $9,700, take it out of our capital funds and send it.
That's fine. Can I amend the motion to be that?
Why, wait, but just to clarify for my wee little brain. If it was supposed to be, to your point, in CJC reserves and it's in CROA reserves, why would we take it from CROA general and not CROA reserve to fund the CJC reserve?
Oh, yeah.
I'm saying take the reserve part for what it actually costs, the $83,000.
Mhm.
And then take the other $9,000 that's budgeted. If Jared wants the little surplus or a cushion for something,
In the reserve fund.
take it from the capital fund. So you're not messing with the reserve fund.
But that full amount rightfully belongs in the CJC fund. It just would, in the CJC reserve fund, it's just a
But
push.
you now know that you don't, well, okay, I'm not gonna die on it. You now know the cost of the item. And every year we put in what we think each item will be.
Yeah.
And then when it comes in actual, then we take what the actual was. Okay, you have the actual, so you should take what the actual is.
Okay, I get your point
When you
too.
get
Yeah,
more,
it's really accounting semantics.
it's an audit thing with the
Yeah.
designated funds. You should take the actual. Yeah, okay. But that's, do with what you want. I don't, why do you want the reserve for that, Ron? Pushing, when you're looking for it.
There's zero balance in CJC at all.
In the reserve fund.
In the reserve fund, yeah.
So in case another reserve item comes up, they have,
Do they have another reserve item?
Not currently, no.
Yeah. I think it's okay. You could always give them all your capital fund anytime you want.
That seems more problematic than what we're trying to do here, though. Because we're trying to move money that is already accounted for this just into the right account.
That's the wrong amount. The cost of $80,300 versus
Yeah.
$90,000.
No, I agree. That's why I asked you to come up and say,
Do with it what you will.
I will leave my motion as it is,
okay,
Which is
which is as written.
as written,
as written for Beagle.
as written on the agenda, yes,
So 90,000.
90,000.
90,000 total.
Not
So
80,000.
the only thing that if we wanted to try to meet each other in the middle is you could make a motion to move, you would make two motions. One for 80,300 and then the rest for 9,700.
Yeah.
It's all,
I'm fine with that too. Everyone have an opinion?
I'm fine with that. And then
Amend my motion to that.
So the 97 cap.
9,700 coming from capital for county purposes.
No, I was still moving from reserve,
Okay.
just for paperwork and documentation.
Oh, is that
We're
really?
making a motion that says. we're
So
moving.
giving them a reserve fund for future reserve needs.
But it belongs to them, right?
Yeah,
It belongs to them anyway.
So I think, yeah, that makes sense. I mean,
Amend to that.
okay.
I understand the two transactions.
Your second,
Yeah, it's a two transaction.
second still applying?
Yeah.
Any other discussion?
Morning.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, now we can move on to discussion. How about our discussion with the rec committee about public and private school usage of amenities, which is your topic? Would you like to speak to it before we start?
we can speak after.
You can speak after, okay. Who owns this?
We were asked to come.
You.
So, I guess for the purposes of discussion, I think that the biggest thing, obviously, we're encountering this more and more. It's beyond the playground, which I think is everyone here is familiar with in regards to the agreement, or non-agreement or handshake or whatever it is between us and Montessori, but we're approaching other amenities as well. So things like pools, other facilities, things that maybe aren't as
Talking about parties too, the private party issue that has come up,
that is higher.
that Mark was just alluding to, yeah.
So I think from my perspective on the board side, I would kind of welcome what your thoughts were is how these types of relationships should play out. Should they be treated separately as like a special agreement with a, with a school or with a, either public or private? Or should they just be treated the same as anyone coming in to request, usage as a, member or non-member of the community?
I'll start. We had originally asked for a workshop in November because that was one of our biggest requests and questions and was denied at that time. We then came back to CROA asking if anybody was grandfathered in, knowing that in this particular case, Montessori has been doing this since they
Right, since you built it, yeah.
and we were told nobody is grandfathered for anything, so treat each thing like it's brand new, which is what we did. At that time, we knew that Montessori is asking for playground, the high school is asking for the swimming pools, the K is asking for swimming pools. There was rumors of other schools wanting other things such as the sports complex, and everybody was kind of waiting to see what happens with Montessori on this playground piece. The Parks and Recs Committee was very aware that we had just spent a significant amount of money for this playground, and there was wear and tear with it, as well as we had multiple residents come at the beginning of the meetings saying that they didn't feel like this was an amenity to them anymore because it was overrun by the school and they did not feel that teachers were adequately watching the students. And that was the feedback we were getting at our beginning comments. Knowing that we were getting all of this and that it's not rentable space, that we talked about either charging significantly because we were told by them that they only pay to CNOA and not CROA. And then we went ahead and offered to give them the back field, but not the playground because the back field was rentable space. And that's kind of where we landed just because there's so many requests. To your point, since even your last meeting, there's been requests from, again, the high school. And then we also, let me back up, looked at public versus private. I was leaving anything out. Yeah.
Sure.
And so
And there's a lot of schools in town.
yeah, and then there was comments, of course, about taxpayer dollars and all that kind of stuff from our residents as well. So that was one of the things that was taken into consideration as well. Now we are to the point where the high school team, very similar situation. They've been grandfathered in since they started that high school, and they've been allowed to hold their swim team tournaments and practices there. And then K-8 does their kindergarten swim
And now Island Village.
and now Island Village. So we just felt there was no consistency about it, and then proposed to CROA that at this point we would decline, not take it out for them this school year by any means, but wait to approve it for the following year till we could give a consistent answer for all schools, whether that's private gets, for-profit gets one and nonprofit gets the other, or whether that's one consistent message to all schools within on, Celebration property.
The committee is leaning,
The
which way?
committee was leaning towards no on the playground due to wear and tear and due to residents saying that they didn't feel they had access to the amenity.
And the resident lack of access, what,
I can speak to that. I went today, just to, cause I knew this would probably come up just to kind of see. And I was there, I got there around 10:30, I stayed till probably like 11:45. And in that time, when I first got there, there was a group of moms with younger kids, probably like preschool, but then there was some, maybe like up to age 10, just playing. And then like around, say, like 11:15, 11:20, the school came. They brought probably like an additional 20 kids. They stayed for 20 minutes. Both teachers were there supervising. Everyone was just playing. The playground holds, they told us, up to 200 children in this particular unit. So there was nowhere close to that. So there was plenty of space, supervision, and I didn't see any issues. And there were other moms there, they didn't say anything. So, I mean, I can see like maybe there would be some complaints, but from what I witnessed today, there was nothing. And we do have, obviously like 7 or 8 total, right?
and that was my question,
Mhm.
how much time?
Today I saw about, there's 20 minutes or so they came.
And is
in.
that, what's their, what is their recess time over there? Do we know?
We have that.
Yes, sir.
There's a clarification question. The other requests that are coming in, are they for exclusive usage of the amenities? So the high school swim team is holding a meet. Are they getting exclusive usage of that pool?
It's a mixed answer.
Okay.
It's not a one size fits all.
So just for clarification.
Yeah. So like if it is a swim meet, then that's like 2 hours on a Tuesday. There's like 3 of those a year. So it's
Right,
6
so-
hours total.
But that would be an exclusive usage.
Right.
Situation. I know the
Yeah.
practices would be, we get the pool for X amount of time, or if it's
No,
shared.
it was shared.
Okay.
I'll say too, some of the feedback we got from parents,
It's the building.
that's when they bring their younger children during the morning. When you bring a class with all the same age, it's a very different age dynamic from 20 10-year-olds all come running out. And there's a bunch of little there. We've had a few people reach out.
But we do have different facilities for different age groups.
That's true. Yeah, and that's what I bring this feedback. we
And
got.
here's my observation, as a very long-term resident in Celebration. You're always gonna get people who are going to complain
Oh, yeah.
about things, and it's always gonna be a very vocal, albeit usually relatively small group, who make themselves sound like they're bigger than they are. They really do. My biggest issue with all of the other uses are different. Montessori, I know this for a fact, was built with the understanding they couldn't even operate. They couldn't get their operations license if they didn't have a place for the kids to play. And so the agreement was originally that when Disney ran CROA, that they would use that playground. And that's why I think that having an absolute policy is really difficult here.
I think one of the things that got brought up in the meeting, because we did want to honor how long they have been here, and that it did same thing. We have expanded as a city, HOA significant. And it's been brought up in many meetings that we don't have the amenities that are available to keep up with now the amount of residents that are here compared to when that was originally agreed upon. The request is from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. Monday through Thursday and 8:30 to 3 p.m. on Fridays.
From when? The whole,
8:30 to 3:30 on Fridays.
they want it all day? I thought it was,
Yes, so it's 4 hours. for 4
so
days.
is that what Montessori specifically requested?
That's
Okay, yes, ma'am.
So just to clarify, and then I have lots of other things to say when I have a chance. So the school does not have that many children that would be out for that amount here. We're talking about 4 classrooms. And so to be clear, we've also had the head of school speak, we've had town architect, we've had the founder of the school, who was a resident, who built it and knows the details. But mathematically, that doesn't.
I know, but we've got to go to the fact that that's what they've requested.
I
So if that's what they've requested, there probably needs to be some clarification of the actual time, because often people will ask for a whole lot more than they need to give themselves flexibility. And sometimes that imposes too big a burden on the whole community and really does make it unavailable. I would question why on a school day there were 10-year-olds out there when it wasn't Montessori,
Yes.
but I was,
Homeschool.
huh? Oh, homeschool kids. Perfect. I was gonna say, as long as they're not non-residents.
Yeah, no, homeschool.
They want to be non-residents. Yes, ma'am.
We're trying to make something black and white that isn't. We live in Florida. We have storms come through. They take the precautions. It is still critical to children's development that they get to outside and building. It's
You're not gonna get a disagreement.
But give a little bit of the 4-hour window that they're asking for a day and understand that Fridays may be up for discussion.
What I would like to do is squeeze that down, even if it's a window, is to say no more than. You can have flexibility, but I think there should be something that says no more than 1 hour or whatever the time is per day, period.
And then the question would be, how do we apply that to the rest?
That's where we start to get into some real issues. Or, I mean, just, you guys chime in, please. Public schools using private pools, for example, we're not getting any money from Osceola County.
Nor are we getting reciprocal use of facilities.
Right.
So, and I think the difference is, so the K-8 swim program, for example, this is, for those that don't know, that is a county initiative. That's not something specific to Celebration schools. For example, my son used to attend Pleasant Hill Elementary down in Kissimmee. They go to the Y, down there. I'm not 100% sure if they have a cost agreement or if they pay for that or anything. I do know that the school provides the lifeguard for them to be there, which there's cost or agreement or whatever that they have. But I think to answer the question of how do we apply Montessori's relationship to everything else, I think the answer is you can't.
You can't.
Because I think that there's the historical precedence that exists there, but I think the other piece is the frequency of use. A lot of the other pieces, even if we talk about things like swim team and those, it's the frequency of use of an amenity is much more limited than school using it every single day. So I think that's where, there's going to be a carve out no matter what we want to do, unless you say no.
I think as a board, that's kind of what we discussed last 2 meetings, is that we were looking at the Montessori situation separate from, all the other.
I don't think we should do that, though. We have to look at this.
I think we have to because
Yeah,
of
but one
because of the special.
Because of the historical.
Because technically that
goes
closed
to the
the
high
school
school
down.
too, then, but that goes to the high school.
No, because Montessori was built specifically with the understanding that they would get to use our property. The high school was not.
The high school wasn't built
No.
with that.
With that specific, no, but in fact, because Osceola County doesn't build pools anymore.
Right.
At their high schools. So they don't have reciprocal agreements with homeowners associations around.
But they have been doing it since they opened their doors.
Yes, they have been doing it since they opened their doors.
Well, that's the same thing. That's semantically, that's a grandfather policy. If we've done it from the beginning, that's the exact same thing.
I agree with you.
That's why we asked them to call, because I literally said in that meeting, it was above my pay grade.
Yeah.
We need insight because it is a can of worms, and we have said from day one as a committee, we want to be consistent, and we want to be able to look our neighbors in the face and pass the red face test. This is why we need everyone.
I
And
feel-
nobody's arguing that any child, anywhere, any school should not get a chance to play. It's how do we?
I feel like it's to the point of, to Eric's point, it's the amount of time that's being used. It's the amount of, like, for example, swim teams. We're not gonna have an ongoing back and forth. You can speak at the end, but I really don't want to go constantly back and forth. There's a what?
There's facts that I'm trying to present.
You can
speak now.
Well, they can speak at the end. Okay, go ahead. Why don't you guys go ahead and share your stuff now?
So we can take that into
This
consideration.
is, the only reason I'm sitting here trying to say is there is a state mandated, basically PD class that is required to be done. They don't have the space for it. So that was, when you're attesting to they needed a space for it.
Yeah.
That is the requirement.
No, I get it. I get that. That's what I'm saying, is that the school has a requirement, but if we as an HOA said, you gotta pay for it, then they'd have to pay for it.
And to that point, we were aware of that, and that's why we did the field.
Yeah.
Because the field is rent what they did.
But again, I want to go back to what I see as the primary point here, and that is the amount of use. Everybody believes their program is the most important program. So our swim program is more important than your resident swimming in the pool. You guys' use of the playground is more important to you than the other residents' use, but during that time, it is. I mean, everybody wants one. So I'm coming back to, yeah, we let community groups and nonprofits and all use facilities. We do that all the time. We let them have it for free. It's just the amount of use.
I think it's.
You can't monopolize the space. Make sense.
What you're saying is like, maybe like exclusive use, so like
Or
having
long-term,
to
yeah.
shut down a CROA amenity. And say, like, so I know when they do this high school does their swim practice, it's still open, right? To the residents. So like residents can still go, the high school team's practicing, that makes sense. Where I think there could be an issue though, is if they're shutting it down for a swim meet and they're closing lakeside. And then we have now a splash pad that essentially would also have to be closed. And residents can't run out lakeside. So that I could definitely see where you guys would be like, okay, what do we do here for like exclusive use? And I mean, that's another discussion, I think, probably separate from like practicing or when other residents can also use the amenity. Similar to like when you rent Heritage Hall, that's exclusive use. I think the Montessori school said they do that, they pay the fee, they rent it, and it's just for the school. Because it's also, but yeah, I can see where that is probably going to be. And I don't
That's a big
know.
can of worms.
I think we have to, I mean, we do have to,
We have to come up with some guidance.
Yeah.
I think we have to determine what's a rentable facility or not. It's not fair.
I think
that
that's
the-
it.
It's not, because I don't think it's fair that the school can rent the pool completely and a resident can't. That's not right.
So how did that, what is like the history behind that?
The pool, I can give you the history behind the pool.
The pool, letting the school close it for like a meet versus.
It's 3 tournaments a year.
Mhm.
And I want to say it was 2 hours that it was exclusive.
It depends on weather conditions. It was between the hours of 3 to 5, but it extended from 3 to 7 p.m.
And I'm fine that they use it,
Right.
but residents also should be able to do it if that's a rentable facility. So one thing we have to decide is what's a rentable facility and not. And of those, what are the different levels of how those.
Either rentability or exclusive usability, even if there's not money involved.
Yes.
Why can't a resident then use Spring Park for a party?
Well, in all fairness, this has haunted this committee the entire year.
Mhm.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, it started with foundation on whether they could rent around the pool or not. We're told it's not rentable space, and so we followed that, and now we're back to it again. So.
And that's why I think it does need to be a blanket thing, because it affects, we just named 6 groups that this
It
affects.
trickles down and everyone likes to point the finger at the other. They're allowed to do that. Why can't I do this?
So,
And there is a difference.
yeah,
between
we want
exclusive
consistency,
use-
I agree. But don't we already have a policy, and I believe this is the case, where a nonprofit gets use of our rentable spaces for X amount of time at no cost, otherwise they're paying.
It's a discounted price.
Discounted price.
Yeah, they get.
Okay.
Yeah.
And it's flat, like that was the whole grid that we spent 2 years working on. So then we had a black and white comprehensive approved last year.
But technically, a pool's not one of those.
Right.
That's not on the list. Like,
So then how did the like swim team get that?
it's been grandfathered.
Disney let them
The-
because the school came to CROA, which was Disney controlled at the time, and said, we need a place to swim. Can we use Lakeside? And he said, yes.
Yeah, I get that, but like closing it down, that part.
Because
Can it still be open during a meet?
if they had, the discussion was there was other pools. So it's not that residents didn't have access to pools, it's that 6 hours out of the year. They missed
Yeah,
that
and
one.
probably even more fair considering we as a board have said we want to eat all our pools eventually.
Okay, I have one question, like if this does come back up to the school and you guys. Would the splash pad also have to be closed for their meet?
We have not seen clients, so we have no idea.
It will be where the.
In general, yes, because you won't be able to get to it
Access
without
control,
interfering with
it has to be.
There's no other.
And that's my one thing.
I think it's the pool. I don't think it's necessarily that no one's allowed through that gate.
Okay,
So to say,
not
it's that,
entering.
it's that they're actually swimming at a competition in that pool, so based on what we're saying, I would think residents could go in and play and watch the meet.
Okay, and the gates aren't flying, so residents being a splash pad wouldn't be a problem. In theory, it's just.
From your perspective, given the things you now know about grandfather things and issues and the land playgrounds, where do you see this going, the three of you?
Like someone from home.
Kind of a good sign.
I see the residents asking for a one size fits all.
Right.
I see that.
But can you give them that? I know they're gonna ask, but
That's gonna be the ask. I think, kids play a soft spot in it. You wanna be able to give a high school student the ability to be in swim meet. You wanna give a younger student attending Montessori the ability to play.
I sorry, I don't mean to interrupt, and I think we all agree with that. The difference here is from our seat here and yours as well, is that we can rent facilities to anyone all day long. Is it the homeowners of Celebration's financial burden to make that possible? And that's what me as a board member, that's how I'm looking at
So then you would.
it. Because I want everyone to use everything,
Yeah. then
but
you
I
could
don't want to
make it
have to pay for someone else to use and burden that space.
If I'm a swim team, then I have to do fundraising. I have to wash some cars, I have to do what I can do so that it covers the wear and tear instead of the resident paying it, if that's the route you're gonna go.
That's my opinion, I will say
But
that.
then Montessori, with everybody, no matter who it is using an amenity, grandfathered in or not, would pay a fee.
then, to that point, Jared, do we then have to make all facilities, including playgrounds, rentable amenities?
My question to that is there an insurance liability to that?
There is no matter what. I mean,
There is no
But
matter
if
what.
there, I think that we were given an example of Artisan, where when things are rentable and their association is taking money and from that, then there's an added liability on that if something were to.
But like we do with all of our facilities that we do rent, we have a hold harmless, and we have indemnification, and we require insurance.
Yeah, we were.
Yeah, when there's larger groups like the swim team or the high school, where we require a COI. It's different when it's like, I wanna rent the pool for a birthday party. We have the whole harmless. And if they're an owner, we don't. What's the rule, Nikki? Remind me. Yeah, they sign a waiver.
But you can't rent a pool for birthday, right?
No, I was using that.
Is there a reason why, like historically, why that was not allowed? That's what I'm wondering.
That
So here's where I think we need to go. It's gonna be an unpopular opinion. I think
I'm sure glad you're saying.
everyone, we need to be consistent. We need to figure out something.
Yep.
We have a guideline in place for nonprofit institutions for facility rental discount rate. I think we need to stop talking in emotions and we need to formally go out to every single organization that gets time from us, whether it's Montessori, whether it's the swim team, whether it's the K-8 swim lessons, whoever, and say, in 2026, we are planning on implementing this. We need a response by X date for you to say either, yeah, I'm okay with this. B, this is an undue burden that you need to review and it's gonna cause an issue. Or C, we're not interested in using your facility anymore, we're closing up shop. Because I think that we need to get data, because for all we know, we're gonna go to the K-8 swim group and we're gonna say, we need money for instruction. And they go to the school board and say, we require, X amount of dollars to be able to run the swim program for K-8 and Island Village. Great, they get the budget, it's put in the budget, we're funded that way and we're off to the races. I think in the similar vein, when we talk about Montessori, and yes, there's historical precedents that they've used it, there's these pieces that come into it. We essentially say we're changing it.
Yeah.
And we're saying that this is what it is, but I think that if we have a response back or some data to have a discussion on, is this gonna be an issue for you or not? Then we can make a little bit more of an informed decision.
To that point then, because the devil's gonna lie in the details. Let's assume for a minute, bear with me. Let's say, for example, we're gonna have a policy across the board, the swim team, if they use a facility, they're going to rent it. Montessori, if they use a facility, they're going to rent it. The foundation, if they use a facility, they're going to rent it. There could be a nonprofit or a for-profit rate, but we're gonna just try to make everything, we're not just brainstorming, okay? Spitballing a little bit. What would, for example, just to Montessori's point, what would the fee be to use a park or a playground for an hour a day?
Would it be exclusive?
It
Yeah.
would be,
But regardless of that, we can figure that out because we know what the maintenance costs of that.
I'm just,
I disagree.
for a reason, but no, just spitball. This is just, let's say it's exclusive or it's not exclusive, either.
I think that makes the biggest difference.
No. You don't know where I'm going yet. Okay, so what do we say? It's to rent it for an hour is $100. Is that an hour? So let's say that's,
Well, we have the rates, right?
what are the rates? Not on playground. Okay, what's the rate for this room for an hour? Roughly.
What's the heritage rate?
That's $100.
Okay, so $100 an hour, and they're using it for 200 hours a year, right? So that's $20,000.
Yeah.
Am I correct? How many kids are in the Montessori school? 120. So you take the $20,000.
I'll do.
Okay, I don't have my calculator out.
But also to that fact, I've already paid for room.
No, but that's, I know where, I know, everybody, but you know, the kid at the high school is gonna say, I already paid for that, and the folks at the foundation are gonna say, well, through my homeowner's fees, I already paid for that. Everybody who lives here is gonna say they paid for it, the people who don't live here didn't pay.
In the spirit of brainstorming.
But hold on,
I have another advice.
hold on, what I'm saying is, then the tuition goes up $160 a year. Go ahead.
My advisor is, what if the primary use of said facility is for use of people 17 and below, and it has no charge? If it's a foundation event or something that the primary use is an adult, it might have a charge.
But what about the swim team using the pools?
They're under 17 primarily, I see no problem with it.
But there's significant wear and tear. I think that's one of the things that we kept getting charged with as a.
Here's the issue, we have to give them some sort of consensus guidance.
I'm just, we're trying to rebuild every building in town in the next however long. We need to cover our costs of the facilities that we're using. So I think we actually need to reprice all of our stuff to figure, I don't know if we're actually covering our costs for these things, or we're too high and it costs nothing to operate whatever facility it is. So I think that's part of this, is figuring out what's the true cost of these buildings, including the staff time to be there to unlock it and lock it and clean it and all that stuff. I think we need to do an evaluation on what these things cost and then determine which facilities are rentable.
And we partnered with the finance committee on that
And I think it's
for
good.
all the.
And that's what helped us fix that grid. That'd be nice.
So they've already done
And
that.
I think that's
2 years old.
Yeah, I think that's really good. And I think for me personally, it just comes down to exclusivity and like still being open. Like, I think that's a big difference.
I would disagree with that because whether there's 30 people and it's exclusive and 100 people and it's not exclusive, the wear and tear on the property is significant. You could have much more wear and tear for 100 kids and it's not exclusive than you would for 30 people and it's exclusive. And I think the residents are very aware of what our amenities are costing us.
As our HOAs go up, is not enough.
I think though, we are buying like commercial standard, like equipment out there that's
But we're
meant to
not,
be
but we're
played
not
on.
collecting
And
reserves
it's
to
more
replace it.
like, I feel like it's more sun damage than actually it's built to be played on. You know, that's what it's built for. And
In this
it's not,
particular
and it's still available to residents to come and use. And when you're expected to pay, then it's like, you're gonna tell other residents, sorry, you can't go to this playground now during the day because the school has exclusive usage. And I think that too can cause a whole nother thing. When for, I don't know how many years this has been happening, and we've all worked together as a community with it, which I saw today when I went to the playground and saw everyone playing fine. I don't think we should, this is my own personal. I don't want to like over it. I think what you guys had is great as far as amenities, what you created like past 2 years ago. I think this is a separate situation, like we can't necessarily compare it apples to apples here, just based on the historical precedents and the way celebration was built, but, and then certain things probably will pop up, like the swim team. I mean, I was a swimmer, so I swam all through college, so I know how important that sport is. So I think
This is
certain
about
things,
that though.
but-
This is
Only to
about-
amphibians.
I think like,
This is about, it's not about using the facilities. It's about making sure we can afford them in 30 years when they need replaced.
I think we will be able to. I don't
Not
know.
if we're collecting, not if we're not collecting the money.
I
to
don't know if we
replace them.
should change something to make certain things rentable that have not historically been rentable, because that could cause other issues.
So to build on Katie's point, under 17 general usage, not exclusive, would we be okay with continuing the policy of it being free with liability waivers? If it's under 17 and exclusive, they need to pay something. If it's over 17 primary usage, then they
I
pay.
think those are good.
If that way it accommodates the past, makes us look like we're on the side of supporting youth activities, which we all love.
Let's see what our committee,
Makes every elementary school open for no fees whatsoever.
Right.
yeah.
A lot of schools.
They have to ask, we're a private organization, we can say yes and no.
But
Yeah,
why
but
did
if
you
our
say
goal
yes
is
to
to
one and not the other?
Yeah. What is
You
the
know, maybe it's for certain amenities, not like clarify, unrentable. So like if KinderCare wants to take their kids on a little field trip to North Village Playground, it wouldn't shut down the playground. It would still be open because it's a non-rentable amenity.
And not exclusive.
And it would be a non-exclusive
And it's a field trip. It's
thing.
one day.
And if they head over and.
But there again, though, it's a carve out still, technically, when parents come and say, they shouldn't have a field trip there and they're gonna complain. That's is what we gotta figure out. It's so hard to have a hard and fast rule of any kind.
What is it?
And I know it's easy,
For that, what would you say? It's like school, the KinderCare and asked,
It is not an equal space.
but would they be allowed to go?
It's not an equal space. They couldn't have it. If they could go as residents going, they would be welcome to have it. But we treat the pools and all the playgrounds that, we can't grant it to you. It's not on the grid. It's not, you would have to go.
See where that falls apart though, when we say the swim team can be at the pool.
Because
But they agree.
Right, but
They agree.
That's
why we asked.
That's why.
Oh, no, I get why you're asking. I'm confused. And I think it's gonna be confusing. That's why I'm trying to find a way for us to give you the guidance to make it easier. So let's talk to our general manager or you're the managing director. Executive, I don't know what your titles are. She's executive director. He's general manager.
So why don't I suggest this? Because I don't think everybody on the board is fully well versed on the new rental rates and the new rental policies and the new grid of what's rented.
Mhm.
So we've gotten feedback from the committee in this joint session. Why don't we put those as topics for your next workshop? You guys can digest them and talk about them and then see if you can provide some additional guidance.
What specific, what's the biggest question?
Right now, Kay wants to use it for their life swim class. The high school needs to prep for their swim team next year, and Montessori needs to prep for their school year next year.
I think we have an agreement.
Oh, and Island Village as well. I'm sorry to be.
So there's the the schools with the pools. And I think from what I understand, Montessori already signed our agreement with them. So I think that's already.
No, we have.
You have that
The side of the clusters.
They signed it, but we have.
They signed it.
But there was discussion and it's.
So can we take I know that there was a review with finance committee, Mike, as I talked about, I was with that committee, and I was on the board at that time, and I don't know that it was done at a level of looking what cost is. Can we look at these events that what the cost is?
There was
of
a
the
breakdown
times
of
of
what costs were from Grand Manners, as well as there was a comparison done to, whether it be a hotel or separate areas and that relatable rental from looking at. If what they charge at Gaylord, the same as what they charge here, is what they charge at Malia. So we did it that way, and then Grand Manners did, but again, cost 2 years ago versus cost today. I know my house is very different.
Sure.
So.
And you're right,
It's not the run rates.
considering
Great.
that time and everything, and running.
And that,
We need to take heat off the committee.
Yeah.
Just end of discussion. I think that's kind of where that needs to happen. No matter what decision we make as a board, it's going to be unpopular with someone.
Yes.
Everyone just needs to know that. And I think I would love to see, in addition to what you're talking about, the pending requests, like kind of what's floating out there in the ether that we can't make a decision. Sounds primarily about schools and boards, is really what we're sitting at. Just so that we can kind of grasp is what's going to be the impact on whatever decision we choose to go.
Actually, that's a good point. Some of these ones that you mentioned kind of don't fall in line specifically with the guidelines that you put in place. So
That's
maybe,
what I
so you're not thinking everything's not black and white. So maybe, this is just a thought. Maybe when something like this pops up, you say, okay, this doesn't fall into our guidelines, we put it on the board's workshop agenda, and then.
That's what we tried to.
We did that in September.
Yeah.
Even if we Montessori,
Yeah, we got the Montessori.
we got the Montessori.
But like, the Montessori workshop.
We did, yes, because we didn't realize.
This is something that we're discussing like the whole PPA form.
Yeah.
There was several hours involved in that, all the programs, civic groups, partner programs, club. It took like months to do that.
Well,
When we get here, we look at any time we want. Please.
No, you're awesome.
So when we face the Montessori problem, so it's a yellow flag here, let's address the CROA.
That's a yellow card.
Decision.
Yeah, the yellow card as well.
We did make the decision.
Yeah, we did make a decision, but the secretaries are going to come back to us and they say, okay, let's address the CROA, and we have a decision.
And we want the work.
So the suggestion at that moment, that we think we discussed, but we don't have any decision. So to give to them Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, like 9 to 10 or 9 to 11, 9 to 2. But it's not a rentable space. We
And
couldn't have this certain accommodation.
too, like, if the playground was in here for 2 years, what did you do? We're not trying to take away outside.
Right, that only happened with Montessori, for that ground fund.
Right.
All the other things are running well.
Yeah,
For
Right.
years.
This is the point.
Parks and Rec is managing super well all the time.
And we don't need, what you're saying is, we don't need to reinvent the wheel.
no,
Well, we had asked,
What I'm saying is that we need to make a decision to stop to calm down the Montessori and say, hey, we are welcome you. And to have a rule that we can follow as a Parks and Rec. Because this is exception.
well, it's like we made
Yeah,
a
that's right.
program, this makes you a partner
It's
program.
an exception.
This makes you a club.
I know
This
we-
makes you a civic.
Right.
We had said you could do the same thing for school. You are a school in celebration. You are a for-profit school in celebration. You are a non-profit school in celebration.
It
You are
was
a
those
public school in
programs, those,
celebration.
not one or two.
That could be a way to differentiate, but that was, we needed guidance. And that's also why we said, as far as we are concerned with what we have been told and what we'll stand on, the field was a rentable space, and with a year's notice or month's notice or whatever it was, you can purchase, they talked about hula hoops and balls and things like that, and it was that to us fit within the framework that we were working in. And so not being denied playtime, but it's still working.
yeah,
Right.
but like certain things probably won't fit in, like closing the pool for swimming. And those things is what I'm saying is like, Nikki can tell Lauren, this doesn't fit in the committee's framework. Can you please put it on the board's agenda for the board to discuss and figure out how
The
to
only
handle it?
risk that I will say there is that we're not consistent.
You think?
So, and I
So,
think,
and that's why I think that digesting those new documents that they put 2 years ago, we can update the run rates. So if we need to update the rates of the chart rates that we charge, we can do that. But then coming back and saying, knowing these are pending requests, the school swimming, the Montessori school, because we still haven't ratified that agreement, and any other public schools or private schools that are coming to Nikki and asking for use of facilities, these are pending requests. What exceptions do you want to carve out, or if any?
And I think with the possibility of rentable space, you have one group asking for 6 hours a year. You have another group asking for 23 hours a week.
yeah, we need to come up with a little bit of, there's gotta be a little bit of reason here. for
23 hours.
But I think you guys can do that.
4 hours for Monday through Thursday.
Oh, you're talking about the Montessori, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that's a lot of hours, yeah.
But that wouldn't be, you mean like rentable space, like,
Yeah, that's what they want.
None of it, yeah, we want it to be rentable space, just like the pool would be rentable space.
Yes.
Playground would be rentable space. But CROA would have to decide how that's determined, because then I want to have a rentable party. You know, I want something,
So
That
that you want
wasn't
the
just
space
fun.
only to these group, but then you, like, y'all have to decide that. If this is, these spaces are rentable, but they're only rentable schools, great, but like, this is what we're coming up.
yeah, I don't think that would be personally as a resident, and only a school can rent a playground and not me. Like, I don't think that's.
No, that's been brought up many, many times.
Yeah.
I would say to Don's point, though,
It's not-
to Don's point of the $166, I think we're gonna find for the playground, for example, it's gonna be a lot less than that.
Yes, it's the actual wear and tear. Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
And so
I was just throwing out a hypothetical number just to say,
But it also does give you something you can tell residents, like, it's not coming back on your HOA dues, they are putting, they're contributing to the wear and tear fund.
And it's only an hour a day for
Talking about the public schools, they don't do any favor for us. We try to do the volleyball, girl volleyball, on the chapter 89. We pay 89. We try to do the soccer on the high school, 89. Paying for that.
Yeah.
89, everything they're ready to ask for them. Or not one time, several times in the year. It is.
same for the NFL flag play 60. They just wanted to use that field on Sundays. The school's closed and schools still want to charge it.
the school wanted to use it?
No, NFL.
Oh, to use the schools.
The local rec club.
Yeah,
This coming back.
Can I give you verbiage that may help you in your discussion talking points? Is it organized activity? So like a swim group would be an organized activity. You could say you're not allowed to have swim practice here, but you effectively can't kick the children out that are residents. You can prevent the organized practice, but you can't stop that. Again, same with the playground. You could say,
yeah,
school
but,
can come here, but you can't kick the residents out from a playtime.
okay, thanks, yes.
Full disclosure, I don't have any children at Montessori school. My child was came, but I just came kind of listening today. And I'm just wondering, as far as like the use case, exclusive use of the playground, I just don't know how you even do exclusive use of the playground because you don't have a fence or anything to control it. And then as a resident, I also think, well, if you don't find out from the school how many residents are there and stuff like that, how many children are residents, if you ask the school, I think you'll find that there is a high number of residents there, and there are so many children on the playground that aren't residents at all. There's no fence, there's no oversight, and it's just like anybody can show up to any playground, and you literally see it in like blogs and stuff, like go to Celebration, go to these playgrounds.
Yeah.
And so I think if we're worried about like wear and tear, then we should also consider that maybe we need fences or somebody to watch who goes to the playground, because like 30 kids on the playground 1 hour a day versus like, the 100 that come in from out of the area and non-residents using it, like, what's the difference?
Okay, thank you. And that also brings us to, I guess what we're gonna talk with them about looking into is the non-scheduled groups that use facilities like parks, to the point raised earlier, parks and pools and things like that. Is that something that you guys, is part of your mandate now too?
What we've done is have a park monitor gone out and check IDs. And that has been our stance on that. So I can speak personally, my daughter plays on a flag football team. They practice on the back field over there, the old lacrosse there.
Yeah.
There is enough residents on the team that they would be able to cover me and Nikki or something like that. If there's not enough, it follows the same procedure just as normal residents. And that's if a park monitor comes out and checks. And that's been our request.
So
So we're gonna get information from you.
Next steps is this will, so the next workshop, we will send you the grids and the run rates and everything that they came up with 2 years ago. Before the workshop, we will make sure we have updated run rates. And then we will have a list of costs for you as well. And then you can discuss with a little bit more background information in terms of the work that they do.
So, end of, okay.
Can I also brainstorm? Just, I don't know if it worked for the story, but just a brainstorm. Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, 9 to 11, and 1 to 3. 3 days a week for 3 months. I don't know.
The next
Just a brainstorm or no, just to discuss the next meeting. I don't know if it worked for you.
I know they signed, so do you mind?
Yeah, that's some-
No, go ahead. Yeah. Come on, come up and speak.
So. Now lived here for almost 5 years and that we all invigorated me to get very active in this community. So I was really hoping since the great Montessori had conversations back and forth that had been modified. I know they speak very highly of you, Nikki, and how much they partner with you. In their mind, this was a good, we were done. The board has made it twice. You've gone on the record that you're fine with this and that you did have the founders, the town architect, the head of schools who has lived here, all speak to this and share. We have to stand for what's decided. You have had an agreement now, and now we have the agreement that was signed last Thursday. That did take a little longer than the last board meeting to get done, but it did. We went back and forth, the lawyers were involved. So at this point, the 11th hour, when the school thinks, you know what, we've had a great partnership for 20 plus years, it's done. I'm really concerned. There were many things that were brought up at a few of the other items where I have concerns that the committee asked for the personal information of my child and trying to get their access that's federally and state protected. No, and then alluded to that there was going to be certification that my child is my child and in fact lives in Celebration.
We asked for how many
That's-
residents were
that
in the
Easy
attendance.
lose. You're not allowed to ask for personal protected private information.
No, but I don't
That is what.
ma'am, wait, stop, guys, we're not, please do not attack the committee, no
Yeah.
matter what they said, committee,
It
we're
kept
not.
me up for days, the idea that.
Well, that's okay. We still don't.
So, but okay, so board members, you said yes twice.
Yep.
We have recordings of it. You have to stand by. This is how we are building, why it's taking so long to rebuild things. This is a good partnership. This can't possibly be what you're trying to stand for, is the idea of taking away access for my child to who we live here. We live around the corner. It doesn't make sense. There are so many more important topics. I really am struggling that this continues, that I have my daughter here because I have paid for childcare for dozens of hours at this point of coming to things. It doesn't make sense. You've made the decision twice, so.
I just want to reiterate though, nobody has said that they want to take anything away. That is not at all what this
So it's
conversation
saying
is
to
about.
limit the hours, he just
No, for
proposed that.
the Montessori time. not
Yeah, you guys-
No, but and that's only because we were trying to clear, okay, we're good. We're done for now, really, seriously. We're done. It's getting way too emotional. Hold on a minute, Marco, please. What we were saying, I asked the question, how many hours per day is Montessori asking for the school facilities? They said 4 hours a day. That has never been brought up, by the way, until tonight.
It was.
4 hours a day?
That's
Yeah, please find that because I didn't hear it. Did anybody else hear that?
No, it's 23 hours.
20, I never heard 23 hours. Anyway, we're gonna limit discussion completely here in a minute, seriously, because we're not getting anywhere. We don't want to tell Montessori they can't use the playground. Got it? That is an absolute, period. We do not want to stop Montessori from using the playground. But I do recall Montessori saying at one of our meetings that they use it for an hour a day. I specifically recall that being said. That was said, please, it was said. The fact of the matter is that all we said was possibly because we're getting complaints, make sure we know which hours of the day Montessori is using it. Am I correct, Marco?
Correct.
Thank you. So I don't think we have any issues that we need to, we have said, we want Montessori to continue to use the playgrounds and the facilities. That's done for this board. Am I right? All right, so we're done. You continue to use it.
And
Okay,
will that-
So will the agreement be signed?
Well, yeah, that's.
we're
fine.
gonna sign, we just got it.
So, hold on, it was sent to them on April 4th after there were some changes to language that they asked for, provided that Charlie made the changes that some of the changes.
It's
they
April
were-
9th, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
It was sent to them on the 3rd of April, and I said, find attached the agreement based on your feedback and conversations with Nikki. If this looks good to you, we will put it in front of the CROA Board of Directors for approval at their upcoming meeting. We did get it back from them.
Our upcoming meeting is
and
in
it
2
will be
weeks.
At your upcoming meeting on the 23rd.
We did not ask for them to sign it, we asked for them to review it.
Yeah, I asked for review
Yep.
and commentary if there was any more feedback. So there was no
Okay,
request.
so-
So this should be on our board
It'll be on
packet.
your board packet.
So this issue is now closed.
I-
We are moving to the board meeting on the 2 weeks from today.
Yeah.
All right, what else do we need to cover on, we have to do are we sending the Mayberry thing to Parks and Rec?
No,
Is that what I'm saying?
Maybe we need to discuss,
No.
but the
Okay.
original B, C, and D, we're asking Parks and Rec
May I
to.
ask for one thing, clarification?
Yes.
Will the high school, K-8 and Island Village also be addressed at that meeting?
Yeah.
Well, because, yeah, we're going through the,
So there's a couple of requests for them to do the safety programs in April and May. So I would
we
I would
can't turn
suggest-
those down at this juncture.
suggest you maintain the
Right.
current agreement
Yeah.
until the board makes a decision.
That answer that.
Thank you.
So how about Mayberry security for pool park monitoring, which we desperately need apparently?
Yeah.
Yes,
So
all the parks. I mean, not just Spring Park, Spring Lake, Island Village.
I have two great, so here's a couple of things. The type of person that applies and works as a security guard is likely going to be a different type of person that's going to apply and work as a parking monitor. What we need is a enforcement capacity, which typically comes with a security guard type role.
I agree. I think it's too scary for a pool and park monitor because people get aggressive.
Exactly, and so I think, sorry, Jake.
I was gonna say, we've discussed like a management team and we fully would agree with that.
So I think I personally would rather see, and I know that have we hired the seasonal people yet?
No.
Okay, I personally would rather see us not do that. And take whatever funds we were going to use for a seasonal position, and we need to go to Mayberry and say, we need to figure out how you guys get staff, an additional person to be able to, this is their job. They go around, they ask for IDs, and if you don't have an ID, I'm sorry, you need to be removed.
That
And if
was,
it-
yeah,
Go ahead.
those finances were in the packet, right?
Right.
Yeah, we've made that request, to circle our different pools. And with a couple parks on there, they provide that for us on a flat hourly rate. They provided it for 1 to 2 security guards with their rates for those for our summer hours. And that rate does include their transportation, which is another large issue that we don't see how we can cover transportation of seasonal hires at the moment.
Yeah, so I think to me that solves two things. The other way that I think that we could skin this a little bit, lifeguards have been brought up a bunch. I don't think we necessarily have a concern with life safety at the pool. It was just the presence of a staff member at the pool was successful. The other way that we go with this is we figure out, as ridiculous as this may sound, you're going to have a Parker pool monitor at every single amenity that's staffed there. Literally someone that sits and is here for this building, that pool, and that playground, and the field. And they're here for 4, 6, 8 hours out of the day. And that's their job.
No, well, what are the summer hours? Let's choose this pool. What are the summer hours?
It's 6
No, it's late,
It's later. It's over the night.
6 a.m. to 10 p.m. That is a lot of hours to staff.
It's a lot of hours, and I get it. And I think that, but we're also.
And that's 7 days a week.
And we're also not gonna staff a security guard though for that same amount of hours. We'd likely look for a window that it would be a priority. I think to me, it's the visual presence of someone being there. The other part of this is I assume there would be some level of cost savings because that person is going to be checking IDs, doing these pieces, but they could also maybe serve half a order where if a trash can gets full, can they empty the trash
I
can?
mean, they can monitor that.
Yes, or be able
But
to
your
monitor.
cost savings is not going to be as such.
Oh, it's not gonna negate the cost. No. This is gonna cost money no matter what we do. And it's not gonna be small. I think that to me, it's whether or not we want to figure out staffing a body physically that's a CROA asset all the time versus a security guard that is going to check. Maybe both. I don't know.
That's what I thought you were saying.
And to hook on to that, Parks and Rec also requested one to be like Lakeside Park.
Yes.
Also watch the basketball as well as the tennis courts to reduce the early morning players who aren't supposed to be there. We've had multiple comments about pickleball noise at 6 a.m., et cetera, which is before the hours. But if they know that area and that's their home base, then they will begin to realize the repeat offenders.
Well, here's the thing that I think I brought up before, and I was told Ted was looking at it. Instead of putting a body at every facility, of which we have so many, and Island Village is quite the facility, it's gonna get very popular. Lakeside, this one, that we have monitored cameras. I'm saying, why don't we have actively monitored?
Our contracts,
Contract with who?
your management
Our
contract.
management contract states they can't do it.
Well, then we could change it.
So, no, I get it. And I think, to me, I think that there's,
Because then they could call out Mayberry,
well, and I would like
Andy
to
or Barney, I don't care which one.
I would like to see almost a hybrid approach to that. So for example, we don't get complaints when there's 3 non-residents on the playground and they're the only ones there. Who flipping cares? I mean, yes, there's wear and tear, I get it, but there's only 3 people. When there's 30,
That's what the camera would see.
the camera would see that, and then that could trigger a security person to go out and check, or to be able to do that. So I think there's maybe a hybrid approach rather than having someone full-time that's just, going through all the feeds. and
Could
looking at things,
residents
but-
be given Mayberry's number for specifically park monitoring?
Yes,
So like if a resident is seeing something at the playground instead of calling, or emailing.
I think we'd be able to put a sign on.
we can
Yeah.
even put it in the phone litany, call town hall, option 7 is Mayberry.
And honestly, actually, if there was a sign, I think that would probably be a huge deterrent anyway,
Yep.
knowing that someone is probably gonna call and a security, not like, a nice town hall person, but a security person is gonna come in. But to the hybrid thing and to what I thought Parks and Rec also thought was a really good idea is starting maybe like with Lakeside as do Mayberry, but maybe have a full-time person at Lakeside also and see how that goes too. And they can monitor all of them.
Yeah.
So that seems to be a
Didn't
good.
we have signs that said no private parties?
Especially on pool decks.
And there was a huge revolt by the residents.
With lunch.
They put up a sign saying no private parties, there was a huge revolt.
Yeah, and so they got taken down. So I just want to.
When's that?
Let's go ahead, they get
Last
signed.
summer.
No other parts inside water.
Right, no,
Right, we said no private parties inside the pool area, then we got a massive flood.
That one was
committee
baby
and
shower,
management, and you guys
everything's
have
the best
massive flood.
thing.
Did
I mean, I think that's another conversation.
I just want to make sure that signs go up, they get signed.
We gotta stay on Mayberry. We're off topic on the Mayberry topic here.
We have a partner to work with us self-defense, and we also work for the charity of self-defense course, and he has a security certificate, because we can certificate and everything. Why not ask him to send an estimate to take care of the pool? And it will be half the price of the regular security person. He has a huge group. He also do some work in different takeaways.
I'm sorry, I missed the beginning of that. Who is this?
Yes, Arthur Deep, it is a partner program. And he also worked for the charity.
Yeah,
We could compare it.
but it's
Maybe just a name for us so we can see.
oh, he has a security firm?
not security fund, but like a monitoring fund.
So
I mean, it's something we could look at, but
we have a contract with Mayberry, and really what we're talking about here is do we want more of that?
I think we just want more Mayberry right now. I think we're getting into the weeds with all these other things, with like full-time monitors and things. Right now, the solution is hire more, put more security out here, and when there's a problem, there's a number to call Mayberry and send them out, or if one of us sees it, or if somebody happens to look at a camera and they see it. then
Because it's been working, Mayberry has been working since we brought them on.
Here's one other question, and I'll ask Bill as the former tech chair and the tech liaison right now, is we've gone back and forth on the use of the Mayberry cameras and then
Yes.
actively monitoring them. What if we test that out this summer as just the pool areas?
I don't see a problem with that. The question came down to ownership of the cameras in the contract was the main.
But if we
cares?
ask them to just utilize it for
Sure.
the 3-month temporary
Yeah.
period, they
Temporary
still own it
contract.
afterwards.
Sure.
I mean, literally, the technology changes so fast that if they own the cameras, they're worth like $1.50.
In fact, we can do that for the,
We built a demo for $2,500 that had mobile cellular access. And
We got fancy stuff. But again, the technology's gonna change over 2 years.
But in that sense, I'm saying because it kind of.
But let's test it.
Eric's hybrid approach, because Mayberry actively monitors their cameras
It's their camera.
24/7,
Right.
and
Yeah.
they will dispatch their people if they see
so if we
something.
do the tennis courts, the basketball court and lakeside, that whole complex is monitored then.
Yes.
And this one.
Sure.
So-
And this one.
Well, time out, because I think, sorry, I was rude. The Spring Lake is where we're gonna have issues. We've already had issues.
Yeah,
And so I think that
and let's do that.
there's a part of me that I go, I want to make sure, I think the cameras make sense for these things, doing a little bit of a hybrid approach, but I still think we need the more Mayberry, the more something.
No, I'm not saying
Yeah,
not, don't do.
No, she's not, yeah, she's not saying no to the more Mayberry, to the more Mayberry and the camera.
Let's test out the cameras, at strategic locations.
Which will give them faster response.
And I agree, the park monitor thing, park monitors are usually young people who are gonna be scared to death to approach
Yes, and they're
somebody.
gonna be attacked immediately.
Of course they are.
so I would say the only caveat that I would also say to this is it going more Mayberry is I would want to see a report from them on number of IDs checked, not just
Perfectly reasonable, because we did the same thing at CDD with the sheriff. We
exactly.
required a report on every single thing they did while they were on our.
They probably have a daily report they have to do anyway.
I assume,
We
yeah.
give regular daily reports with pictures of each location that we visited.
Great.
Then, while we're in this test period, can you include that in our packets?
Yes.
And we
So-
do already own a test camera, it was the one used to monitor that.
The camera is amazing.
So how about we say, yeah, let's do more Mayberry and look at any way we can to enhance their security?
So 1 or 2 is the question, right? What, you gave us quotes for what 1 would be and what 2 would be. Is there a recommendation?
You gotta have to.
So it's,
Yeah, I mean, I think with the summer hours, you're
You
gonna.
got
have
it.
to split
and then would 2 suffice, like versus,
So
Well,
Nick,
we're gonna
your
test it for 3
plans
months.
with pool monitors.
Let's see.
If you have one, I mean, you've given some good examples before. If you have one person specifically on monitoring pools with our 6 community pools, they can only reach, or they can hit every facility.
So one monitor, we asked to test it, was exactly 2 hours it took to get to every facility.
That's fast.
So.
Yeah,
what
that's
you're-
bear in mind, no complications and no,
Yeah, but if a resident stops up, they have to clean up that time.
Sure.
So we're somewhat testing it this month, but having 2 park monitors in the evenings to split the time in half. So I have a team going to the village, Spring Lake, as far as getting conflicts, and then the other half of town, Lakeside, East Village, North Village, and Spring Park again. Yeah.
so like with Mayberry, would 1 be kind of like covering all the bases and then the other being like, we got a phone call here and they go.
She's talking about split shifts.
So,
Yeah.
well, you have your one that's gonna go to 7 days a week that you're already contracted for. So this would be potentially adding another 1 or 2 on top of that. If you add 2 on top
Oh,
of
I
that,
see.
then those 2 can be focused on focusing on the pools and playgrounds while the other one's doing their standard rounds of this.
So it'd be similar to what we have now, adding 2 more with
Mayberry.
the same scope.
And we still have our park monitors.
And you still
And the
have.
park monitors, the nice thing about having the Mayberry with the park monitors is that the park monitors find themselves in an uncomfortable situation. They should immediately call Mayberry out.
Could one park monitor that we already have then be stationed like at Lakeside full time? Or?
I think Vicky's been talking about making some adjustments during the
Yeah,
summer.
what I can be added is I could share the schedule that we have with the board, monthly schedule, so I can show you where we're missing.
Okay, that's.
That would be really helpful.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, okay, I think we're all in agreement that we're okay with spending money on that. That I assume would help everything that you're hearing from this side, but can help me with. Let's ask Mayberry for a recommendation on facility ground. But I think so, but I think the other side of this is on the, I don't want to dismiss the phone number thing.
I agree. I was just gonna bring that up. I want signs.
We will put signage up and we will have business cards made up and for the front counter to hand out.
So
to people.
to Mark's,
Yeah.
sorry, pointing it, but to Mark's not point, two finger point, when Mark's saying that he calls and nothing happens. If we put option 7 on the phone tree and you hit the button and it rings Mayberry, what happens? Do we know?
It goes to their call center. I have used the call center on the weekends when there was the wedding down in Artisan. It goes to the call center, the dispatcher gives you say, I need somebody sent to this location. Whoever you have on site right now, I need them sent to this location to address the issue.
So what happens when we don't have someone on site?
Yeah, that's the problem.
Will we,
No, because we won't have, because.
You won't have 24/7 coverage.
Right.
but what about,
We'll have, well,
So
with three, we should have almost all of
Here's
them.
the-
maybe one person?
You will likely have somebody on site during main business hours and the hot hours on the weekends. There's also, if you call town hall outside of business hours, it goes to our corporate after hours call center. And then they call first Jacob, then Christian, and then me. So you will get one of the 3 of us outside business hours.
Is there a recommendation like during like nighttime? If residents see something happening that they should call maybe non-emergency at
Well,
that
if it's
point?
criminal in nature or
911.
suspicious, 911 is your first call.
Yeah.
If it's, I don't know if this is whether this person's being disruptive, then
That's still not.
it's still 911.
Yeah,
slash
but
maybe.
no emergency, they like our life, but
Well, let's be honest,
What about-
Mayberry's gonna respond much faster than 911.
Correct. I would say, Mayberry, and then if you can't get Mayberry, then call the after hours number for town hall, and then we'll definitely get one of us.
Usually
So-
it's,
Yeah.
what about to have the deputy back when we have chair in the past?
Yeah, that's a.
We can talk about that in CJ.
Yeah. If we, but I think here's my concern. I'm thinking about this from just a guest experience perspective. Resident experience perspective. When they pick up the phone and they call, they get the call center from Mayberry and they say, we don't have anyone in your community right now. I kind of don't want them to say that. I kind of want, is there a way the call center can then be, that gets routed somehow to the after hours number for,
Let's discuss that with.
that's what I think we need to figure out.
Or is there a way to, with 3 to always have someone on for celebrations?
I don't know.
No, because then we're paying someone.
Let them work that out. Let them work that out with Mayberry.
We'll work on some proposed details and scheduling in time for your board meeting.
I almost
With
wouldn't,
these concerns?
I almost wouldn't mind if they do say we have no one, because then that's identifying us
It's a challenge.
when we don't have someone.
Yeah, that's true.
And then-
All right, we're moving on to civility pledge.
No, we're passing that.
Oh, good.
Charlotte.
We're moving on to 2025 committee resolution. You didn't amend your thing to take out E.
I wanted to respect Charles' civility and let him, if he was gonna show up.
Oh, okay, you were nice. All right, now, 2025 committee resolutions.
Like Gary, does Gary want to speak at the beginning of this?
Yes, sir.
He's standing.
Two recommendations for improvement. I looked at all the resolutions. The first one is that committee members expire in March. And as you know, it takes till April for the board to reappoint people or to appoint people. So I recommend you change that little phrase to, team members expire upon, appointment for the next month. Because most of the committees meet in April anyway, so you don't want them to expire in March.
And there was confusion, I think, with one committee too, based on, so that, thank you, that's good.
I'd like to interject, Nikki, Parks and Rec Committee, thank you for your attendance.
Oh, yes.
At this moment, you are welcome.
Thank you guys
to
for
the
being here.
table.
Oh, thank you all very much. Yeah, we're done with the park and rec. So good for you. Who's on the ball?
The second thing is, I noticed that name of the board liaison is in each of the committee resolutions. As we know, last year, some board members resigned from their mentorship, some resigned from the board. So rather than have a name of a person that's in paper for a year, just say there will be a board liaison.
Yeah, there are some.
Oh, they're all got names of everyone.
They don't, I know they don't all have that, but I do see that some of them.
Yeah, just say there'll be a board liaison as part.
Yeah.
Okay, that's good.
So this is just discussion.
To Gary's first point, I don't think we should say until a new board is seated. Otherwise, it's no mess all over again. We should say end of April.
Yeah.
We have to put a date. If we say indefinitely, then we have a committee that's there for 30 years.
Board workshop. I don't need.
Anything else? I just want to add to that.
Then we're voting on these later.
We're voting on 2 weeks, right?
Yeah.
We're also voting on committee members at that point.
Yeah.
The committee applications close next Wednesday.
And then are we gonna basically be similar where I know this will be new?
You send out a matrix.
There will be a matrix in your, like, for you guys to go, like you did last year.
They send us a thing with all the applicants and what they're interested in, but there's also one person will be interested in like 4 things. They say, well, what's.
Like Marco was last year, he wanted like 4 things.
Yeah, efficiency.
The technology committee resolution,
Yes.
some of these things are management's job, and I don't think should be the responsibility of the committee.
Example.
Security and infrastructure enhancement.
Gallagher was a project the tech committee advised on. Cameras are, I think, the security thing the tech committee advises on.
They be advisory.
They're advisory. We're not doing the work.
They're not decided.
We're recommending.
Okay, think it's way too long.
Well, there's a lot, the technology committee responsibility here seems excessive. There's a lot of stuff here.
But again, is it responsibility or is it just advisory function? And maybe that's the word responsibility is too broad. Because they're not the ones we're gonna end up making the ultimate decisions on advice from management.
Yeah, if other board members have not read this one, I suggest you read the goals and objectives. It's a lot for a committee. I mean, it's a lot for any committee to be doing this level of work.
Yeah, right.
So
Shoes.
What is your
Oh,
suggestion?
yeah, technology. It is slow.
Well, we would simplify it down. And I think the other thing too is this also gets to be, what do we as a board want to use any committee for? So I think that if we want the committee to, like the prior board wanted, or previous boards wanted, looking into Gallagher, for example.
Right.
That was one thing that could be.
But that should be a specific thing. No
Yes.
committee can get anything done if this is how many things we're on.
Oh, yeah,
This is the problem. And so, like, the goal is that everything in the goals and objectives is completed that year. And this seems to be, it just seems to be a lot.
Okay.
I'm not,
So you're talking basically about it being the C really being an annual thing
Well, we're just reducing.
see, it's supposed to be, this is what this committee's getting done this year.
this year. Okay, because I read it as this was just sort of general stuff that we're gonna be involved in. But to your point, then, if it's stuff that they're gonna attack this year, you're right. That's way too much for anybody to do in a year.
Sorry.
You're overachieving. Get Marco on your committee. He's an overachiever.
I don't have prepared here today a list of things that I think technology should be doing. I should gather that, and I should have.
No,
done that for this, but
No, no.
and do defer to your experience with the committee on that as well.
Yeah, so like, what are your thoughts, Bill, on the actual scope of it? Do you think it is?
Some of it's been done.
Or-
When you have it.
Like establish best practices for backup and recovery of critical HOA data.
Yes.
That is a management function.
Yeah.
Fully, like in my opinion.
Okay, yes, you're absolutely right. That, in fact, it should be already done.
Develop and maintain a technology life cycle policy. That is a management function. We pay a full-time IT person to do that thing.
Yes.
So these are the things that I think should.
You want to propose a red line copy to the board?
I
before
can,
the
I
next
can,
meeting?
I can do that, yeah. I'm not trying to dictate how this one should be. I just think this is a lot and.
Would you be able to tackle a red line too? Sure.
Or
No,
maybe
really.
would you rather do it, like, take this feedback and you look at it again? Would that
Yes.
be more appropriate?
Well, yes.
That's what I'm thinking.
Let Bill do it.
Because I agree that it's a lot, don't you? I mean, you look at that and you go, for accomplishing in a year.
Yes.
Plus, it's gonna be a new committee too, we don't know for sure, so I, we got years.
I'm a liaison now.
Yeah.
I'm not a committeeman.
Yeah, so
So
like,
we're all gonna be asking, did they do this yet? Did they do this yet?
I mean, just if you want to relook at it.
We will relook at it and resubmit.
Thank you. That was very nice. Anything else that anybody else saw that was really important that you want to discuss before we move these along to the final review on the red lines and,
I think recreation committee should also be reviewed for the same.
oh, now you let them go.
Well, if that's not them, that's Marco.
Oh, you're right. He's a liaison. Okay, let me look. Oh, it's another long one.
And actually, what we just talked about needs to all be considered in their resolution for next year, so.
Yeah.
I think, yeah, that was the main thing,
well,
the ones we didn't talk about, because we said that would be.
So it's kind of in here already.
What was it?
Yeah, it is.
Not-
It's under one.
But look at number 2. Is that something that we want them doing this year?
But yeah, I see what you're saying. Is the creating of new programs.
Yeah. Number 7, well, no, number 7 is right. We are doing the lakeside
Yeah.
replacement, so that's something we need to be addressing. Number 8, partner with Osceola Schools. We don't need to do that. They don't want to do that.
Well, maybe it's something that they want to work.
It'll never happen.
Well, then we can let the school district liaison deal with that, not the
Yeah,
committee.
I just don't think that. I think you're right on that. Again, you're right. Just needs to be a little redlining. And I think eight is
Oh, I
something
don't
that
know.
is a way.
So what you're saying is the new members were overachieved themselves. Yeah.
Or are you saying we're lazy?
No, I'm just pointing out that the 2 new members have.
However,
This is new to you as well, and I realize.
this could, I mean, also could be construed as a wish list for things they'd like to do. And if they don't get to 3 and 8, then they won't get to. And my guess is with all the things they've got going on, they won't get to 3 and 8.
I'll tell you this, Dog Park got 0 done last year, so this year, guess what they're doing? The exact same ones.
So
So,
take care of it.
yeah.
Okay. I would say that let's just move these forward with some red lines on tech. This, sure. Look at this. You are just, I don't know what to do with that.
We're like.
Okay, there's a little snark in it, just.
I just find it funny that overachievement is.
I just think you're funny.
So
All right.
RFC request for reconsideration.
I like snark.
let's keep going.
That's not the basketball move. What do you want on this?
Yeah,
What is our
Gary
point?
would like to speak on this before. Doug starts.
Okay, Gary.
It's my understanding, a month and a half ago, when you talked about basketball goals in the covenants design guidance, that I understood that the board said you wanted no more than 1 goal per household. So somebody's brought up a change to put in a full basketball court.
We didn't say that.
yeah, we said one permanently.
No,
I know,
One, yeah.
I know, but if you read this, they're looking for an exemption. What I wanted you to consider is the amount of noise if you were living next door to a full-size basketball court. And another consideration is what if the family that has this court disappears for 6 months? like they live in another country. What's to prevent people from coming in and using that court and
Well,
what?
trespass laws.
Right, and would you consider, like, if you did allow it, would you require them to put a fence around it like you would a swimming pool?
Are you speaking on behalf of ARC currently, or?
You have a person that wants to play in a full basketball court and is looking for an exemption because
I can't imagine ARC would approve that.
Well,
there are people, oh gosh, I'm gonna get real personal now. The ARC is bringing this up to you because they want the exemption.
What does that come through, like, field
The
stuff?
fields, yeah.
no, so here's,
I'll let,
Yeah, you tell us.
yeah,
Liaison.
here's where we're at. So technically, if we go back to schools, ARC can't make an exemption. It has to come before the board. That's what this is. So ARC has kicked it to the board.
When is that for our next meeting?
It's, yeah, why? Because they can't approve this. There's no.
They're not in the guidelines.
It's not in the guidelines. And there's already a guidelines in regards to sporting. By us defining the basketball hoop thing, we've now defined a sport court.
Make it.
It would be the same thing as if we had defined a tennis court, for example. We don't have a guideline for that, so it needs to be a exemption. So because in our guidelines, it states that we just talked about, that it's one hoop. This is two hoops.
So based
Two
on,
hoops and a court, two hoops and a court.
And a soccer court, and a basketball, football.
Is that the drawings I see
Yeah.
here?
Yeah, it's a sport court.
Are you joking?
So
Here's this thing is pretty an important age. I
Yeah,
thought it was something we were planning for us.
it looks like something we should, this is a full, yeah.
that's pretty important. Because it goes against the line.
Yeah, so wouldn't they just reject it and then it get appealed?
Yeah, we could do that, but the person in this case is already in the mindset of exemption. Because that's technically what they can do for the charter.
Yeah, they could do that.
Right.
but it's up to ARC to decide.
No, it's up to us.
No, but okay.
So this person's coming to us as for an exemption now?
Here's my question. What's ARC's recommendation to the board? You can ARC and recommend to the board.
They formally do not have one.
That's popping out.
Could we wait and ask the new committee, like,
It's not gonna change. I don't think it'll change.
so do you have?
Here's,
the ARC
Wait, Gary,
is misinterpreting what we do.
but
yeah,
behind it,
here's my piece with it. We see this with all of this on here. To me, this is exactly the same as a pool. No difference.
yeah, but we allow schools, we don't allow two basketball teams.
We don't, but what's the difference?
So what would
We require visual screening of a pool.
your recommendation on this?
Well, I'm not gonna follow that.
Okay.
So, but my piece here is that it's a tricky one. We haven't had this formally come up. There's only one other home that I'm aware of in Celebration that has a full-size court of something. And it's not viewable from any.
That's what's gonna be my biggest question. Where, I can't tell what you can see from
No, you
where.
can't put on a map, it's not.
It's not.
It
It's
goes
not
against
visible.
open
That's
space.
the whole thing.
So that's
That's
up
the
to the.
Okay, so there's no visibility from any street or any neighbor.
So there's.
Because if I was their next door neighbor, I would not want to look at those colors.
Well, do you want to hear the activity of a court of that capacity?
You know, my neighbors 2 doors down just put a pool in and they have a lot of parties.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
Yeah, and my glass is incredibly thin and those parties go late.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's loud.
yeah,
But I think it's this.
Girls screaming at the top of their lungs penetrates
I've been,
solid rock.
yeah,
So I think the point for us is, I don't want to say we've kind of created this issue, but we've created this issue by defining the whole basketball hoop thing. If they had come to us as a general request about the hoops on this,
Yeah.
then it would have just gone to ARC as a general request.
And what would have happened?
They would have either approved or denied it.
But because we defined one,
We defined hoop. Correct? Am I
Yes.
off in my basis?
no,
Yeah,
you're,
okay. We've defined
I don't know
hoop,
why
and I know this sounds really ridiculous, but they're following the rules.
We said you can only have one hoop. They want two hoops.
Okay, so what that?
Ignore the rest of it.
This is.
It's hard to do. Because it's so numerous requirements.
From a
It's
from
an
a
appeal
rules
because-
perspective, you have said one hoop only per house.
Yeah.
They want two hoops, forget the rest of the course.
Well, then they need to go through appeals, actually, Katie is
That's, so what I'm thinking
Then
is,
they
like,
bring the appeal. The commission rejected and it goes to the board of appeals.
and then we can discuss it there, like, okay, is it shown where you're able to see it from the street, you know, or?
If I did
Yeah,
not
this should
look
not
to
be-
see how this is sitting in smart webs right now. I guess I could, but if has this already been rejected or is this completely, this may be one of the first ones that's just gone straight to an exemption request?
Okay.
I guess.
I don't have it.
7437.
We haven't done it.
7.4.
Yeah.
So that's why.
Either way, can this just go to board of appeals
If it's been,
An exemption.
well, not until the,
until they reject it?
Yeah.
Sure. That's fine, if the committee rejects it. Right? Does that sound okay?
They can, yeah, but,
Incomplete.
Based on what is currently stated.
oh, yeah, that's a way we could do it. The application's incomplete, so you could reject it, and then they'll appeal the rejection from there, and then. Either way, the tricky part about this is technically ARC can't deny something because they don't have a guideline to go.
I see what you're saying.
But back to the conservation.
The two basket, yeah, you're not allowed to have two basketball hoops, isn't that the guideline?
You're only
Well,
allowed,
that's true. They could go, they could go back and say denied this, and then they would have to appeal based off of that.
Yeah.
That's fair. That's true. Yeah.
That's what I'm
Okay,
thinking.
let's do that.
Wise,
Yeah, cool.
that makes
well,
sense.
because we've only allowed one.
Right.
Yeah.
We
that's
said
so-
yes to one,
This has.
not
to
a
do-
court, not in painting the driveway with, we just said one, Gary.
You can also consider how much permeable
That's
space
what I was
is
gonna bring up.
Yeah, but that's where the county gets into permeable space. We don't, oh, well, then cool, we got, okay, but I think it's the one court. It's so simple. We said one goal, ooh, goal,
Yeah.
thing you jump over to,
Okay,
done into.
Someone get that drawing.
I'm not a sports person.
so what the guidance that I will go back to the committee on is stating rule based on the guideline that you have today. We as a board need to expect this is gonna come back in front of us.
It's fine with me.
It's fine.
And
Jacob, Lauren, that makes sense.
All right, we're moving on.
This is this on March 5th. That was.
Moving on, 851 renovation project update. Is there anything?
Yes, there's small items on here for discussion. So we have just completed, we have the completed results of the site survey that was initiated, and we've just completed a conceptual design review. In this design review, it came up the topic of landscaping around 851. It is in the current scope of Collect with their engineer to do like for like similar landscape. We paused this to bring it to the board to say, does the board want to continue with that option or look at having our current landscape provider who has to do a landscape rent or mock-up for that, or to have an architecture, to have a different plan, or
Mine-
Spending more money.
like for like.
yeah, I think like for a
Like for
lot
like.
of these renovations, I think like for like
I agree.
With
safest.
the fact that it's lower than the slab.
Right, that's it.
Yeah.
That's
Significantly lower than the slab.
Right, that's built in, but I mean, not doing a complete redesign of the landscape.
So the estimated price by one done by Exquisite would be under $1,000. If they were chosen to perform the work, they would apply that as a credit to the project.
Yeah, but then we gotta spend the money on the work.
Mhm.
So
you have to spend the money on the work.
But that's the thing. The landscaping isn't in Calypso.
oh, that's true. So we're gonna have to spend it one way
We're
or
gonna
the
spend
other.
it one way or
Or
the
we
other.
either ask them to provide it, or what's the second option?
Here's where my concern from an art perspective comes with this. Calic is going to take a picture of what was at the building today and then just throw it into CAD. Because that's what's in the contract, like for like, right? They're gonna take that, plop it out. We know that some of those plans didn't work. And so there's a part of me that goes, take plants that we have purposely swapped in other parks that we know don't require as much care and start with those. Because if we continue on and we tell Click to do like for like, which is in their agreement, yes, they can do that. We may not even go with that plan at the end of the day, because when we get to whoever vendor we use, they can come back and they say that plant is wrong plant, wrong place.
Then we should just use Exquisite for $1,000.
So what do you think?
Yeah. We can do it up front with Exquisite and then.
But he'll apply the 1,000.
If we go with them, so, because I think still, we can still get a design plan from Exquisite, and then if we decide AES wants to bid on it, and, or whoever, then we can still go with someone else.
Can we get 9 months terms on that $1,000 invoice?
So this would be operating, so
Yeah.
All right,
As long as the irrigation does not splash the window.
but no splashing that building.
I'm for it.
All right, moving on to 316 invoices. What's the deal?
Okay, so you all have a document in front of you and I apologize. for
No, this is.
my chicken scratch on it. So the remaining balance owed to 360 is $20,000, $20,149.05. They are technically 150 days late based on their contract. So if you were to charge them a full amount, they would owe CROA $30,192. So they would owe us $10,000 change. If you take out the time that they were in permitting, which was 104 days for East Village and 140 days for Island Village, then we would owe them $6,672.48. Or no, sorry, they would owe us $6,670.48, so we would be paying them $13,000 of that remaining 20. However, if you take permitting and you squeeze permitting to a 90-day window, which it really probably should have been because they were not on the ball and were not proactively monitoring it, and Christian was having to push the line for them. If you squeeze that to 90 days, then we would owe them $12,662 and only be holding back $7,487.
What's, okay, so we go after them for this.
What's their response?
What's their response?
Their potential response is to file a lien and then file a suit to close on the lien for the remaining balance.
How much is it gonna cost us to engage Charlie or whoever for easier to talk to them about this?
Your hourly rate.
I think if we go with the 12,000 option, the least option, they have no leg to stand on. They're not gonna argue it because we just have management can point to the contract.
Okay, which one are we talking about?
The bottom one,
The
right?
bottom one. And so that means we would owe them
Instead of 20,000, we owe.
7,000.
No, we owe 12,000.
Well,
We're only
Oh,
holding back
this is the
7.
12.
Yeah. we're
Oh,
only
that should be there.
7K.
Okay. So we would pay them 12 and be done with it.
yeah,
Yeah,
And then they're not gonna win that anyway.
right,
600.
right. Right. I think that's what we should do.
You want me to have Charlie approach that conversation with them?
Yep, right there.
Does he need to, or if we just say based on the contract, here's our final?
I feel like you have the skills to write that letter.
I do too.
Okay.
Yeah.
Everybody in your capacity is. That's it. There's a letter, and say this is full and final payment.
Based
Even though I know that legally that does not count, it's, they got the money in their hand, and if they cash the check and you sent them the letter.
Yeah, they cash.
Puts them in a tough spot.
They gave us the full release lien when they signed the original.
Oh, they gave us
contract.
a full release of lien?
When they signed the contract and notarized it.
So then they can't even file.
Oops.
Well, then we should go.
Well,
with the
I
second.
could say that.
No, give them
That's
the
a different-
12.
Yes, I think that's a fair.
okay.
Yes.
Do you think that is management comfortable with this idea?
I think if you're gonna hold any money back, I would go with sort of option 3.
Okay. Here's my thing with it. I would like to try that, but I don't necessarily know how much we would want to.
I bet you they're gonna give up.
If someone did this to me and I was 155 days late, I'd be happy I got.
What's
Yeah, exactly.
what's
Yeah.
required? I mean, this is very fair.
Okay.
Yeah, because we can also go, then we can countersue for all the last projects that they owe us 30,000.
Well, the thing is that like we have these liquidated damages in the contract for a reason and they signed it.
They signed it.
It is what it
We
is.
don't ever want to use this, but
It is what it is.
It is.
Yeah, okay.
All right, thank you all. Our service area committee elections.
This is more as an update from referencing the bylaws and what we're doing with making the service areas more reflective of the 720 statutes. The election process of the committee members this year is different than it has in past years, where it has been by appointment of the CROA board. According to the bylaws, it needs to be a proxy style vote by that service area. So if the application to the service area exceed the amount of seats, then they'll need to go to a vote of their service area. If they receive the amount of applications within the quorum to the maximum.
Just automatically.
Is management proposing that we would run this the same way as we do the election was simple voting?
No, so it would be more simple, it would be more of an annual meeting for them, an annual meeting style vote, where they can show up in person and vote on that evening, or they can send in a proxy vote.
It's the same style of voting system used to initiate a committee. So they've seen the same process that they're already seeing for if they want a service area committee, that voting system, which does not use simply voting, is not as robust as the CROA election. Correct. Will be.
It's also easier to get a quorum that way.
Yeah.
Additionally, the appointment of the new committee members will take place at an annual meeting, as Laura just mentioned. We are looking to have their annual meetings be their quarter 2 service area meetings, which may look like about a 30-day delay this year, and then it'll stay on 12 months.
That makes sense.
So the only piece with it going to an annual meeting is they could get a wild card nomination at the meeting.
Well, which is fine, but yeah, that is fine.
This is legally regulated, you're just informing?
Yeah.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Park improvement calendar.
Park improvement calendar on Q2 of this year. We have the Greens Field, Spring Park Field, and Long Meadow Playground. The board has approved the work for Greens Field and Spring Park Field, which look to start later this month. Long Meadow, you'll see on your workshop next month for the work around the playground that we postponed for in last year.
Is that all the dirt outside of the sidewalk?
That's correct.
It's been like forever like that?
Yeah, we originally planned to put that with a design plan of what it is. We have a rough of that for on this workshop, but
Grass
as
probably
it
needs
seems
to
to
go
be
different, right?
correct. It is
So that's
not,
that's part of the future re-landscape after we fix the plan.
yeah, and that's what it's about a $90,000 quote that was last year and is going over this year. And why it's so expensive is because it's all plant material.
Right.
Yeah.
Are there bollards along here as well? Then maybe that's not part of this,
It's a
but
separate thing.
that's happening at the end of.
So the bollard pricing is coming in higher than it was originally anticipated. The price still keeps going up and up and up.
Yeah.
So Diane does have a quote for us that we can put in front of the board.
Okay.
We can order the bollards now.
We should.
Before the tariffs.
That's
$2,000. That's the, I think that's.
Can we just buy the bollards even if they're sitting in
Yeah.
the shed
We're
somewhere?
getting extra, right?
If you'd like that answer, we're trying to find other options to get the 3. Yes.
Given the circumstance, I feel like we could go forward with
The
the
bollards.
Yeah.
I think we would,
We'll have the board directed to put that on the agenda with just the one quote.
Yes.
I think that's fair. We should just-
and it's Diane.
It is Diane to do the work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We took her one.
Okay, CJC cost sharing contributions. I don't even want to hear that.
No, you really don't.
I don't want to hear
I'm
this.
going to first read this as the CJC president, and then I'll give my CROA opinion following. CJC paid $500,000 this year. After discussing with them, their real number probably should be around 370,000. They feel that it should be 250,000, a little under 250,000. They are upset about that differential.
May I, for the record,
Yes.
what was it the year prior? You know.
No,
I think
It's about $500,000.
similar to what it was this year.
Like 297 and then went up to 531.
I just wanted to know, but for previous years. Question is fine. So
They are not interested in a multi-year agreement at all. They are not willing to entertain any changes to the bylaws. However, they would like to change the bylaws in their favor to remove the approval of CROA for the approval of CJCs for their management. Those are the key parts of this.
So for the management company one's actually relatively straightforward. No one has the ability to go with the management company if they want to, but they have to get CJC's approval to do it. However,
that gets CROA's approval.
no,
CJC's
CJC's approval, but CROA is always going to hold the majority.
Right.
So they're kind of like, they're handcuffed because they can't really make a decision of their own bylaws change their management.
Wait a minute, but who's on bylaws? Canoa's or
CJC's.
CJC's bylaws.
CJC's bylaws though were specifically written to give CROA the advantage.
Yes, and they don't want, it's frustrating because
I'm trying to differentiate between Canoa and CJC.
Yes,
Because Canoa can do whatever they damn well please.
they can't change the management.
They can't change management companies without CJC approval.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's what I wanted to get.
That's what it is.
Okay.
But they are very clear to also, so now I'm speaking of CROA, they're also clear to say, we're not changing the bylaws for anything you want, because I wanted to have bylaws, let's change our bylaws to a percentage. Every year you contribute a percentage amount, and let's just do that. They're very clear, we're not changing bylaws for anything. But will you change the bylaws for this for us? So that's the ask.
No, we don't change our bylaws unless it's a reciprocal consideration of bylaw changes. I mean, that's what I think.
I agree. The other thing is we have an apples and oranges issue with how things are accounted for. So CROA counts accounts as per residence, per door. Canoa accounts by acreage. So an apartment complex is one account, one door. So it's not adding up, and they keep saying that they don't have any growth and that their numbers aren't going to change. And I said, well, our numbers aren't changing because CROA's space is about to be limited as well. So the problem is their 1.7% that they think they owe is because the accounting isn't per account. It's ours is per account and theirs is square footage. Not per.
I know, which is, I can't believe that any lawyer anywhere let that go.
Definition of it.
We have,
I did ask.
That happened the speech was just last week, and so this is coming.
because that's ridiculous that they consider the hospital to be the same size as my house.
Yes.
Or,
There is
water tower.
Yeah, there is the difference of apartments pay rec fees, and that's true, but that's not for everything. That's for just the facilities. So even that argument is a bit
So
underfunded.
is the downtown one entity?
Yes, like I said,
One entity. So all their stores. No, the hotel is separate.
But the
All
rest,
these stores or something.
Each store is separate?
no,
It's just like the water tower shops.
Lexington is one.
like
Lexington is one and the hotel is not Lexington.
That's square footage, but in order to the bulk calculation, go by doors.
Yeah,
Okay, so we have two different calculations.
So there's two different
There's a
arguments.
bulk
of how to
calculation,
do
they
that.
can't reach agreement.
which is why Charlie's
Yeah.
working on it.
Got it. So there is hope in here.
Well,
Not a lot.
when you get the right interpretation on apartments and billable units, there's huge hope. I think it's pretty solid.
You think it's pretty solid? Well, I trust your level of experience in this kind of stuff, so. yeah.
Well, all of our documents state billable units and everything else, but the document that's the bulk calculation talks about billable units, accounts that you keep record of.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good, then keep.
Yes.
Yes, so let's, but I agree though on the CJC. If they're not gonna allow us to propose changes, then
Yes,
forget about it until.
I still think the hope is to get this into a percentage in the agreement, and we would make both of those changes at the same time. Yes, you can have whatever measurement company you want. Yes, we're gonna have
But we need more ammunition.
12% per year, no more than 18%, because they also want a cap on that, which is fine, I get that. that's where we are, and that's their position as of the last meeting, Canoa's position at the last meeting.
Now, just, again, who are the voting members of Canoa?
Mike, thing is,
No, not the voting board members,
oh,
but the voting members, the companies that make up Canoa, the organization.
The large parcel owners of the NOAA property. So Lexington is one, they have 3
Right,
different
give
parcels.
me 10,
the hospital.
The hospital.
I thought so.
That's one vote.
that's one vote.
The Malia, no,
That's-
their votes are based on parcels
Okay,
on their acreage.
okay.
So then you have the Malia, you have the hotel downtown, you have the water tower shops, that's all owned by one entity. You have Celebration Place all by one entity. You have all the different parcels on
Future
the boulevard, Future Ways, Unicorn, and then you have the apartment complexes are each their own owner.
Got it. How about Island Village?
That's an apartment complex.
Oh, the downstairs portion, that's part of the apartment.
Oh, part of the apartment.
Got it, okay. All right, so, so since, how do they vote
They have a.
for their representatives?
So they have an annual meeting that they have not made quorum in many, many years. If quorum is based on a percentage of the acreage. Voting,
How did,
and it's very difficult to get quorum, especially without admins help participate.
well then,
Wait, it gets better.
I know how Mike got elected.
You also don't need to be a resident of Celebration or own a business in Celebration to be on Canoa.
What I'm wondering is, how was the current board then, the Canoa board, put into place?
They were elected at one point.
By whom?
So TCP sat on it and appointed never get the full board. And those board members carried over once he stepped off.
And then they've never met or
And then
since.
Then they had to appoint one once he stepped off to meet quorum in the interim until we could hold another election.
You know, all this dark side stuff.
Come with CJC me.
No, I don't want to. Click here, I don't want any more.
Jared, can I make one?
Yes, please.
Okay.
So the people that Lauren was alluding to, the Presbyterian Church, the apartments, all those people, medical, Disney's medical building, the Rosa building, all those people, they could care less about this, and they're not involved in it. They just aren't. So that's why you got this little group here.
Yeah.
What I wanted to share with you, and Jared has this too, Lexington, of the 500,000+, Lexington pays $68,000 for their part. They're 12% of the board. So they are an infinitesimal part of the total, and they're whipping this around and trying to get big reduction for these people who don't even know they're paying it. It's not even in their purview.
So, just based on your lifetime of business experience, is there anything that the rest of Celebration can do to put pressure on those other businesses to vote their dang votes?
Yeah, the outcome on this, Jared has a list of these things, Lauren saw too, I think. If they put too much pressure on them, what you do is you go to the community and you say, look, your fees are gonna go up. And your fees are gonna have to go up by this much because these businesses don't want to support us. So you create a tension between the businesses and the community, the residents.
You think it exactly the same way I was thinking,
You think that
the nuclear option.
yeah,
It's 10 points, right? 10 points.
businesses aren't gonna want that now. The hospital could care less. And I don't think the merchants downtown that want more people patronizing them. You wanna have the social media, what would happen on the back porch? Social media would take off. All you'd have to do, and we would go to the community and say that, your fees are gonna go up by $50 a year, $100 a year, whatever.
I'd write a letter from the president to everybody in town stating that with no, with no qualms whatsoever.
Okay, let me say this. Our meetings, that we've had 3 meetings, they're increasingly getting better and friendlier.
Okay, yes.
So let's just keep writing this how we're going for now. I don't disagree that that is an option, but right now, I think
I just want to play bad cop for right now.
yeah.
I think what Jared's trying.
I want you to be good cop.
It's working, and I didn't expect it to work, but it is working. So
I think the other piece of this too is that originally, I had proposed, I said, so you guys just don't want to pay anything, right?
Yeah.
And they were like, wow. And so, but we've slowly been working to a little bit more of a common ground where they understand, okay, well, if we're not at 15, maybe we're at 12.
Yes.
Okay, so it's getting there.
Well,
But
I think really to have you guys doing this for us. Thank you. No, really, I truly want to thank you guys.
It's all a new thing for all of us because we've not had this authority before. So.
Right.
I'm really, really impressed and I am so enlightened. Thank you all for all your great enlightening thoughts.
I think you've got the nuclear option, but I think this, default methodology needs to be.
The voting.
And that's
Not
the next
terrible,
thing, yeah.
because the lawyers are gonna probably say active participants like that, I have a lot of confidence.
No, we need a pretty definitive answer.
Yeah, and, you know, you can always decide that you don't want to take your lawyer's advice and think you got the right answer here, go ahead with this. So, shouldn't forget that Lexington was only paying $68,000, and you gave them, after your first meeting with them.
We gave them $100,000.
You gave them a marketing person for pick your number, whatever you're paying the marketing person.
Well, but plus the pennies and all that, yeah.
So you nullify Lexington, all your invoices come from Lexington, because other people don't even know or care.
They wanted them.
So
Want to scream.
the next meeting will be
This
based
has
on
been
this.
almost 30 years of just wanting to scream.
Do it.
Just.
You may still get to.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Hey, thank you all so much for everything. Do I have a motion to adjourn? Wait, oh,
Oh, yes.
oh.
That should have been
I'm wondering,
added.
why didn't you do that earlier?
So you started off rolling.
Hi, Ray.
Ray, if you can figure out how to charge Montessori school for whatever you think is appropriate. Yeah. First time.
Welcome to our little family.
This is day 7.
His first thing was the CJC.
Yeah.
His first thing was CJC.
No.
Yeah. Saturday, watching.
Okay, are you staying?
He's still here though.
Now a motion to adjourn. Second, we are adjourned, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you all for your hard work.